Samoa Joe is amazing because Samoa Joe now finds himself as one of the key featured top acts on Collision, while at the same time is one of the key names in this world title, if not the key name, along with Roderick Strong, I would argue, in this world title tournament that is building towards a match at one of AEW's biggest television shows, which is the Arthur Ashe Stadium show. But he's also a key component of the next big rivalry with their top guy, their world champion, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. So I'm looking at Samoa Joe, and I go, this guy was brought in to be in Ring of Honor. And he's a top guy again. And then I realized this is the story of Samoa Joe's career. You wanna find an example of somebody who's just like, you know what? I'm not going to politic for it. I'm not going to tell people I want it. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to be the best. And I'm going to make it so there's no other choice. That it's obvious what has to be done. Because that's what Samoa Joe does. Samoa Joe has this amazing Ring of Honor and independent career, right? And the whole time he's there, and people forget. That's why I think it's so important to bring up. Because people forget Samoa Joe's journey and the way that some treated him on his journey. Because he doesn't bring it up. He's just like, nah, you know what, homie? I think I'm just going to go out there and be the best. And then everybody will just have no choice but to acknowledge it. And you're like, I don't know if that'll work. And then he goes out and he does that exact thing. So Samoa Joe has this amazing run in Ring of Honor and on the independents. But the whole time people are like, man, Samoa Joe's great, but he's just not the WWE type. Because when he's starting out, this is just when WWE has taken over the industry. There's this whole generation of independent talent, and CM Punk is one of them, and Samoa Joe is one of them. But it's like the next up guys, because Samoa Joe would have been in ECW immediately. But when ECW and WCW both went out of business, there was an entire generation of guys that were looked at as, yeah, there's the independent guys and then there's the WWE guys. It's just a different world. And Samoa Joe was like, no, he'll never be a WWE guy. He'll have good independent matches. That's it. And then TNA starts up and they get Samoa Joe. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Samoa Joe's here. All right, I guess I'll do something in TNA. He becomes a top guy in TNA like nothing, right? Some of his best matches, a match with Kurt Angle, the whole thing. There's still, but like when Hogan came in, it was still like, we don't really know who this Samoa Joe guy is. I don't know about this. We're going to focus more on these people over here. And eventually, you got no choice but to come back to Samoa Joe because he's better than everybody. And then NXT starts to build some steam, right? And TakeOver Brooklyn happens, and it's like, oh, NXT is becoming a viable brand. NXT starts going on the road a little bit. Finn Balor's there. Kevin Owens is there. Sami Zayn is there. Bayley's becoming a hit. Sasha Banks is becoming a hit. And they go, okay, how about this? Everybody here right now are training at the Performance Center. Like when Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, all those people came in, they had to go through Performance Center classes. They had to go and practice roles and do everything that like new people had to do. It was a crazy system. But they go, okay, what if, this is Triple H's idea, he's brilliant. What if we bring in Samoa Joe, but we don't have him go through the PC, and he's not there to be called up to the main roster. We bring in Samoa Joe to just boost attendance at live shows so we can play 2,000 seat venues, and he can be a main eventer at our takeover shows. So we can, get people excited about them on the WWE network and hopefully get them to come out to an arena for it. Well, okay, cool. We'd do it for a month. We'd do it for 2 months. We'd do it for a run. Okay, let's do it for a year. Okay, let's keep it going. Okay, let's have Samoa Joe be the NXT champion. Okay, let's have it. And all of a sudden, it gets to the point where Samoa Joe is so good on NXT that somebody that was never intended to be brought into WWE's developmental system at all is called up to the main roster. And you're like, oh. And not only is he called up to the main roster, but he gets put in the deep end. I mean, and this says it all. There was a segment where it was Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar in the ring together. And Samoa Joe took the spotlight without even trying. Samoa Joe squares up with Brock Lesnar. You want to go? You want to go? Like, without an ounce of fear in his eyes. And even though Roman Reigns is standing in the ring, there's nothing in the world that you want more than Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. So now we're at the point where you've got this guy who's brought in to NXT just to sell tickets to live shows and so their developmental guys can get reps. And instead of just being a guy to give developmental guys reps, he's a guy who's main eventing main roster pay-per-views. And okay, I don't know, there are injuries. He gets put on commentary. He does an excellent job on commentary. But for whatever reason, WWE releases him. And then NXT goes, well, we'll pick him up. And he's back at NXT and he's main eventing again. But then he gets released from NXT again. And what happens? Well, AEW goes, you know, we're restarting Ring of Honor. What if we had Samoa Joe and he was like a big Ring of Honor guy? I mean, it's literally the same strategy that they had for him in NXT. We'll bring Samoa Joe in, and it'll be like a big get for the NXT crowd. AEW is like, we'll bring Samoa Joe in, and it'll be like a big get for the Ring of Honor crowd. And what happens within months? Some months go by. Samoa Joe is delivering every time. And you've got no choice but to make him, even though he's literally a Ring of Honor champion. He's the Ring of Honor television champion right now. But that's a side note. Because this guy that you brought in to boost Ring of Honor is now about to be your main event alongside MJF. It's the biggest story in the company. Because it's Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe, of all the wrestlers I've ever seen, more than anybody else, Samoa Joe is the guy that you can't stop. You cannot, and nobody will ever be able to stop Samoa Joe. He's just an incredibly skilled, incredibly charismatic, he's got everything, dude. I'm the biggest Samoa Joe fan in the world, and I love seeing no matter what situation he's in, he's selling water to a whale every single time, and it's easy. It's easy. I'll just go out there and do what I do. Did you see the Samoa Joe versus MJF promo battle? It was like something else. And Samoa Joe has this great way, and what I really loved about that MJF Samoa Joe promo battle was that it felt really real. It felt awkward almost at times. Like it wasn't pro wrestling promo back and forth, which I think is great for both of them. And they're both, I mean, so unbelievably good at this. Samoa Joe, it's sick how good he is at this, given the fact that, like, he's created all of his opportunities. And MJF is like, he's 26, and he's swimming with sharks like it's nothing. He is a shark. He's 26, and you put somebody in there with MJF, and they're the ones swimming with sharks. It's an incredible sight to see. But not only did it feel real, but Samoa Joe, when he was attacking MJF, you just believed every bit of it. Like he was going to rip this guy to shreds. And then when the cavalry came in to help MJF, the speed with which Samoa Joe ducked out of the ring and went, oh, like just instantly changing how he felt. It all, like his instincts are just so good. And he's so good at portraying how he's feeling. He doesn't like forecast his feelings, which is tough to do in performance-based, combat. That you always know what the next move is going to be. So if you're looking at somebody's face, you can see, oh, they're ready for the next thing. So when the next thing happens, you see it a second before it's going to happen because they are forecasting it. That doesn't happen with Joe. Even when he walked away from Penta, when he did his walk away after the die. It's so good. I'm just the biggest Samoa Joe fan, and I love seeing history repeat itself and Samoa Joe going right back to the main event of a national, international wrestling company because he's just the best and there's no other option.